It's Faith Friday, and it's a special one as we celebrate Pride Month. Our next guest is committed to including the LGBTQ plus community at church.
He most certainly is, and here to share a message of hope is the Vice President of the Metropolitan New York Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church. Please welcome Christopher Vergara. Good to see you, man.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So it is Pride Month. Let's talk about why it's important for inclusivity when it comes to churches. I feel like a lot of churches now are moving toward acceptance.
I think inclusivity is important because I think diversity is a gift that we get. It's not a mandate. It's not something to check off a list. It's something important to the work that we do as communities of faith. The Lutheran churches of New York are committed to doing this work of gender justice, racial justice, economic justice, immigrant justice, and all that work, I think, is only helped by having the individual lived experience of as many people as possible contributing to that work. I think we as queer people, I think there's this recent notion that we just sort of are a recent invention, that we've just sort of come out of nowhere, and we are
But that comes from being shunned in the past at all these churches.
Right, but we are a proud and ancient people who've survived centuries of persecution, and we're still here. And even now, as our communities, as our spaces, our relationships, even our bodies are under threat, we continue to survive and thrive. And that level of resiliency, I think, is an asset to anybody who's trying to do any kind of work in justice in our communities.
When you take a step back and you think about this, for so many LGBTQ plus people, the struggle between church and their sexuality is something that you hear from people over and over and over again because they don't find that acceptance at church. So what would you say for someone who's struggling with that, to find that acceptance, or how do they find that acceptance at church?
Right. First, I want to apologize for any people who've experienced to be made feel less than, and where specifically the Christian tradition, our sacred text, has been used to against them, right? That's not what the Bible teaches or what we believe. Many of us believe that the Bible teaches. So I would tell you to continue to seek out communities of faith that welcome your complete and whole person, right? In the Lutheran Church, our designation is Reconciling in Christ, and those are churches that have done the work to be specifically welcoming to queer people, and have done the work and continue to engage in that work. And I would tell you to continue to seek out, because they exist, communities of faith that are ready and willing to welcome you and your families into their community.
Now for some words of wisdom from you. A lot of people are proud because it is Pride Month, but there are people out there who are still struggling, still turned away from their families because they haven't come out, or they have and they haven't been accepted. So what's your advice?
So my advice would be, my word of wisdom is to engage. I think communities, systems of oppressions want to keep us separate, don't want us talking to each other, don't want us dialoguing. I think we need to continue to engage in communication and talking with each other and seeing each other's humanity. I would think for communities of faith, we have to engage when we see that people are using our traditions, our texts, to make people, to dehumanize, as opposed to challenging people to be the best versions of themselves. I think we need to speak up against that, be that around the coffee pot after church, on social media, or even at our own dinner tables. And then for my baby queers, people who are just sort of beginning to understand who they are and put language to their lived experience, to know that they are a beloved child of God, and that we are so lucky to have them with us and being on this planet, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
No, my pleasure.